8 months ago, I sat across from a man named Thomas Kern in a flat in Freiburg, with the curtains drawn in the middle of the afternoon. He told me something had followed him out of the Black Forest. He told me the rules he lived by to keep it at a distance. And at the end of our conversation, he said one thing that I have thought about every day since. He said, "Tell people it doesn't stay in the forest." I published that episode, and I told myself the story was finished, that Thomas had survived, that the rules were holding. I was wrong. I drove home from Freiburg that evening, and I told myself the story was finished, that Thomas had survived, that he had found his rules, the lights on, the taxis, the constant checking, and that the rules were holding. I told myself that I was wrong. 2 months ago, Felix called me, not to follow up, not to check how the episode was coming along. He called me because he had no one else to call who would understand what he was telling me, and he needed to tell someone. Thomas had gone back to the Black Forest. He hadn't gone willingly. That's the first thing Felix said, and he said it like it mattered, like he needed me to understand that his brother had not simply lost his mind or abandoned everything he had built in the year since the 3rd of October. Thomas had gone back because he had no choice, because something had started happening to their mother. Their mother, Ingrid, is 67. She lives alone in a village about 40 kilometers, 25 miles from the edge of the Black Forest. She had visited Thomas in Freiburg 3 months before Felix called me, and on the drive back the forest road she had taken 1,000 times, she had stopped the car. She told Thomas later that she had heard something on the roof of the car. A weight, something settling onto the roof of a moving vehicle, the way you feel luggage shift on a roof rack. She had stopped to check. She had gotten out of the car on a forest road at dusk, and she had stood there looking up at the roof, which was empty. Thomas had gone pale when she told him. He had asked her very carefully what she did next. She said she had gotten back into the car and driven home. She had left all the lights on that night. She hadn't thought much of it. She thought it was probably an animal, a branch, something that had fallen from a tree as she drove underneath. Thomas knew it wasn't, because the rules are very specific. You keep the lights on, you don't go outside after dark, you don't open doors at night, and you don't stop. His mother had stopped, and in the weeks that followed, Ingrid began hearing things. Not inside the house at first, only outside. Footsteps on the gravel around the house. A sound on the roof at night. The same weight she had felt on the car. She called Thomas and described it, and his voice, she said, went very quiet. He told her to keep every light on, to lock every door, to call him if she heard it again. She called him 4 days later at 2 in the morning. She had gone to the kitchen for water, and she had not turned the light on first. Thomas drove to her house that night. He arrived before dawn, and he checked every room, and he sat with his mother until it was light. And he drove back to Freiburg, and he called Felix and said something Felix had never heard him say before. He said, "I don't know how to fix this," but he tried. That is the thing about Thomas Kern that you need to understand. He was the one who showed up, who fixed things, who did not leave a problem unresolved when someone he loved was in the middle of it. It was the core of who he was. Felix told me this, and his voice broke slightly when he said it. The first and only time in our conversation that his composure slipped. Thomas spent 6 weeks researching. He went back to every source he could find. The old folklore accounts, the ranger community, people who had worked that section of the forest. He was trying to understand the mechanism, not the mythology. The mechanism, how it moved, how it chose, whether it could be led away from someone who had not originally encountered it, whether it could be redirected. He found something. Felix doesn't know that. Thomas stopped sharing details at a certain point, which Felix now understands was deliberate. Thomas was protecting him, keeping him out of it. 3 weeks before Felix called me, Thomas sent him a message, a written message, at 11 o'clock at night, which was already strange, because Thomas did not go outside after dark, and barely used his phone after sunset. The message said, "I think I understand what it is now. It isn't one thing in one place. It's the same thing in many places. The forest is just where it's thinnest, where it's easiest to notice. Once it is attached, it can follow anywhere, which is why the rules matter. The rules keep it at a distance. They don't remove it, and Mom broke the rules before she knew the rules existed, and now it is attached to her the same way it has attached itself to me. I think if I can get it to follow me back into the forest, back to where it's strongest, where it's most itself, I can pull it away from her. I've spoken to the old ranger. He says it's possible. He says someone did it once before. He says the important thing is not to stop walking once you're inside. Whatever you hear, whatever you see, don't stop. I know this better than anyone. Tell Mom I love her. Tell her to keep the lights on until I'm back. I'll call you when I'm out." Thomas went into the Black Forest 3 weeks ago. He has not called. Felix filed a missing person report 4 days after the message. The police searched the trail section Thomas had named, the same section he had patrolled for 11 years, the same section his former supervisor had quietly reassigned after his resignation. They found his car at the trailhead. His phone was on the passenger seat. His headlamp was gone. They found no other trace of him. So the search was called off after 10 days. The official assessment was that Thomas had entered a remote section of a forest alone at night and had become disoriented. They noted that the terrain was difficult and that the weather had been poor. They noted that he had no reason to be there. They classified it as a missing persons case and left it open. Felix told me all of this in a flat voice, the same composure I had sat across from 8 months earlier in the Freiburg flat. He told me everything, and then he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said he knew the rules better than anyone. He had been living by them for a year. He knew not to stop, but he stopped. I don't know if maybe something made him stop.